Well, good morning. I don't believe I've ever been this nervous to tackle a project so far in this entire process of renovating the stone house, which is saying something, as we've had an excavator inside of the kitchen jackhammering through the floor, or I've spent time underpinning all of the stone walls. But today I'm laying down a parquet flooring. Never done this before. I'm not entirely sure it's a DIY friendly situation here, but one way or another, I have to get this flooring down this week so that we can get moved in. Well, before I get to the other rooms of the house, I'm definitely going to the shops and buying a shop vac. I think it probably took me a good 30 minutes of sweeping just to get this one room done, and it sure makes a lot of dust, which then settles, which has to be swept up again, and it just doesn't work. But moving on, there are two different ways that you can put this flooring down. One is to glue it right directly to the concrete floor, which seems to be the method that's mostly done in Europe. But the method that I'm gonna go for is a floating floor, where you lay down an underlayment first, and then you glue the individual pieces of the flooring to create essentially a floating floor. I'll kind of explain the benefits of it later on. So with this flooring setup, there's a right-hand side and a left-hand side. And they're manufactured differently based on the placement of the tongue and groove. I don't see on the box where they indicate which is which. I'm assuming R means right, so it's printed on the bottom of the boards. But I might just have to open them all up to see what's what. Part of what makes this process a little bit more difficult than I would say the average floor is that every other piece you're grabbing from a right-hand side to a left-hand side. Here's a left-hand side. All right, we're getting somewhere. But before I get started, let's take a moment to appreciate just how beautiful this flooring is. It's just stunning. It matches the beams, the new beams that we put in, just spot on perfectly, and goes really, really well with the stones. Obviously, it's really dark in here because of the black flooring right now, but you can kind of get a sense as to the color, as well as how well that color matches with the beams that we've placed up above for the doorways. All right, as I've said, I'm more than a little bit nervous about this process, but I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos this morning, which hopefully will help. No, that's not right.
B-boards to our left-hand side, A-boards to our right-hand side. I'm going to start off by slotting in, locking down.
Many minutes later.
Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. So what I'm trying to do is create a starting place. This will be one of the walls that I choose to cut, and I just needed to make sure that all sides are equal and we have a good place to start. Okay, so now that I think I've at least figured out how this works, I'm gonna go ahead and lock everything in, take it apart, glue it together, tape it up, let it dry a bit, and then I'll cut the whole thing in one pass. All of these pieces will be used later on as scraps, and I probably shouldn't have glued things as a result of that, but you know what? I'm learning. All right, so now here's where I have to decide where to start the pattern, and I've been going back and forth on this, whether or not the pattern should be centered within the room, and therefore hopefully it would end up mirroring on the other side of the house once we get to the kids' bedrooms of somewhat centered. But I think that it's more important to make sure that everything is centered going down the hallway, as if it's out of center in the hallway where it's more narrow, it will just be more obvious than if it's in a bedroom where, let's say if I'm off center over here on this side, well, the bed is covering up most of that, as well as nightstands. So I think I'm gonna spend a lot of time measuring. All of this prep work takes the longest amount of time, and then hopefully it will go really, really fast, at least until I get to the cutting points of all around the edges. And now that I see that line, I'm really second guessing myself, as I don't know if I should center to the hallway itself or center to the doorways. All right, so now that I've gotten started, I've got my measuring all squared away, or at least hopefully squared away. We'll see when we get to the end of the house. It should be pretty smooth sailing for the bulk of everything. It's gonna go in really fast, aside from the cuts. So when we get to the cuts, it slows down dramatically. I'm already very thankful that I'm doing the floating floor version. The two biggest reasons are, number one, it's a whole lot less messy. And if you saw how I did the tile floor in the bathroom, you'll know I need all the help I can get with being less messy. But from a practical standpoint, once it's finished, it actually has a lot more give. The floor will actually float, and I'll get a camera angle later on where you can see, and you actually have a little bit of a bounce to it. Not something that's like annoying or super noticeable. It just makes things a lot lighter on your feet and doesn't give you as much fatigue as you're walking around the house in your socks or bare feet. But with that, I'm gonna put on some music to help boost my confidence, and I'm gonna smash out the majority of this room.
I wanna wander out of the valley where the river takes us far away from home. Time to ponder in the fields around me, where there's nothing but the breeze and the great unknown. Leave your worries and your suitcase.
Well, you guys know how much we love traveling and investing into family memories and experiences, especially if we can do things on a budget. And that's where today's video sponsor, Klook, comes in. Klook is an experience booking platform with thousands of destinations worldwide. It's easy to use, you can book all of your experiences on one platform, and most importantly, the prices cannot be beat. But next to that, it's just the sheer convenience of the platform, as Klook offers all of your travel experiences under one roof. So for example, if you're coming to Europe for vacation, then I'd recommend you use Klook to check out Disneyland Paris tickets, as hint, it's a lot cheaper than in the States. But you might also want to check out the Eurail Global Pass, as there's no better way to travel Europe than by train. But you can book just about any experience on Klook. We recently booked tickets to the Warner Brothers studios in London, and the kids were absolutely obsessed. In the past, we've used Klook to book Universal tickets, but realistically, any theme park or museum or tour or any experience you can think of, you can find at Klook, all at unbeatable prices. For example, those Disneyland Paris tickets I mentioned, right now you can get them for as little as $56. Or soon we're going to be going to the Colosseum in Rome with my parents, and you can get tickets on Klook for $30. Plus, if you use our unique link to book your first experience, you'll get an additional 10% off. So sign up using the link in the description below or by scanning the QR code on screen. Both the app and the website are very user-friendly and are a fun way to find out ideas for your next destination. And also, simply by checking out the website using our unique link, you help support our family. But with that, thank you so much to Klook for sponsoring today's video. Well, I'm really pleased with the pace that things are going at right now, as well as how it's looking. It looks fantastic. Just one of those things that I had a picture in my mind of what it would look like, and it's turning out so significantly better than what I was imagining. Just thrilled to death. I am still nervous to get around the edges and start cutting boards. Not really that terribly nervous about doing any of the edges that have drywall and white paint, because those will have trim, so I can leave a good ½ inch gap and cover it up with trim. So that's fairly easy, just tedious and takes a long time. I'm nervous about the stone wall behind me and the other stone walls in the other rooms, because we're not going to be having any trim, or at least that's the plan. Sweet in the silence. Oh, we'll keep running, we'll keep running. Leave your worries and your suitcase. Oh, you don't need nothing but you. So don't throw your hopes, start wishing well that your heart's desire carry you. So I often joke with the guys that this is an Italian tape measure because I don't even know how to use it. I usually honestly break them. I try to open them up and I'll just snap them in half. And that this is an American tape measure. I tend to stick with this. They cannot stand using this as a tape measure. They measure everything with this. Even if it's greater than 2 meters, which is this maximum, whereas you can get these that are 10 meters, they will take multiple measurements and add them up in order to get their measurement, which I think is silly, just use this. But this is one situation where I tried using this tape measure for the first several cuts, and I kept getting the measurement wrong over and over and over again, just because of how you're trying to take the measurement. There's thickness to the tape itself. You can't really put it on its side because then it kind of wobbles around. I don't know how to explain it. When I switch to this one, it's going a lot faster. So far, cutting is going extremely well. Very pleased with how this is coming out. I'm just leaving about an 8 or a 10 mil gap for an expansion gap there. Lots more cutting to do in this room, but unfortunately I do have to knock off a little bit early today to go pick up some supplies very far away, but I'll pick up bright and early tomorrow morning. come on, I'll go in there. I didn't really process through just how difficult this would be, or rather maybe how inadequate my skills are at accomplishing this task. Cutting around these stones is proving to be extremely tedious. There's so much measuring and cutting and scribing and cutting again and remeasuring and realizing you overcut and grabbing a new piece and cutting it one more time. And you'd think that this thing would make the job a lot easier, but you have to make sure it's at the right angle. And so as you're pushing it into the stones, you're taking measurements from other pieces to make sure that it's at a perfect 45-degree angle. And then you get all the way through 20 minutes later and you finally cut your piece as I have just cut, realize it's perfect, go to place it in, and then realize you messed up the pattern and you were supposed to use the other sided board at this corner joint here. And it's for that reason that I actually didn't film at all yesterday. I spent the entire day working around, figuring out my technique for cutting around the stones, and I think I've got it. I think, although I just did mess up again, didn't I? It may have taken half a day yesterday to do this wall, but it does look very, very nice. I managed to scribe in with just the bare minimum thickness required for an expansion gap. And then we're gonna come back in and fill that with a color matching caulk that will match either the floor or the gray in the wall. But I guess that means the room in here is finished. I just need to get through this doorway and onto the hallway, and I'll give you a grand reveal of this room in a minute. Once I get through into the hallway, I'll have a chance to clean this all up because, well, it's all a bit of a disaster right now.
Do I have what it takes to make you fall in love with me? Am I the real deal or just another one of those who fake it? Maybe I don't really know you. Maybe I don't really know myself. Let me rest in your...
All right, well, that transition from the bedroom into the hallway went relatively pain-free. It's very slow, tedious work. But all of these cut points here look just brilliant. And yeah, I probably should have cleaned up before I started filming it. But look at that. Once we fill all of that in with a color matching caulk, that line is just going to disappear. And things are looking brilliantly. Obviously, ignore all of the tape. The tape helps out a lot more than you might expect. It really holds all of the wood together, allows me to walk on it while the glue is still drying. Funny story, I actually brought all of the tape and all of the glue from America from the last time we were there, as I have not been able to find tape that's sticky enough and that I like very much here, painter's tape that is. And same with the glue, I just haven't found a glue that really works that well, so I stuffed a suitcase full of nearly 3 gallons of wood glue and I think like 10 rolls of tape, and that was my entire checked baggage on my last trip over. But now that I'm through this doorway here, that means I can move on to this long stretch of hallway. The floor goes down rather quickly except for all of the cutting, and it's actually kind of enjoyable and therapeutic until you get to the cutting, and then it's just really annoying. So for now, to give my soul a breath of fresh air, I'm gonna put on some music and plow through this hallway.
It's time to let our guard down. I can promise you anything but loving you tonight. I want to grow up with you. Cliche to say, but it's true. Tell me you see me just as I see you. I want to grow up with you. Cliche to say, but it's true. Tell me.
Well, I got a little carried away listening to the music and just smashing it out, and was supposed to stop an hour ago. The day's kind of flown by, but I'm really just thrilled with the progress. I think I finally learned my technique, and while cutting around the stones is still slow, at least I'm not wasting 5 boards at a time trying to get one piece to fit in. but look at what we've got going on so far. This transition coming through these doors is looking rather nice. Really sharp lines right up to the stones. And this hallway looks so much longer now that we have all the flooring in. I know it's hard to tell with all of the mess, and I'll get cleaned up here soon, but I love how these lines carry all the way through into the next room here. This flooring somehow makes this hallway seem a whole lot longer than it felt before. Well, that's the end of day 3, and I think with this new pace, I might be able to knock it out in just 2 more days, hopefully. There are so many of these tiny little pieces that are so hard to even grip as you're trying to saw around the line that you're trying to fit around all of these stones, but we're getting through it. I'm just about to start the very last room. So I've basically abandoned this measuring guide, whatever this thing is called, just not having the greatest luck with it. So instead I'm going for a scribing method where you slowly chip back a little bit, bring it back to the spot, mark out a new line, and then cut again. There we go. That's how small of a piece I needed. Oh man, I need like half a dozen of them as well. Finally, we're on the final room. When you're on an open floor and you don't have to worry about any cuts, it's actually quite enjoyable. The brand of flooring that I bought, I'm very pleased with. The tolerance is just right, so it goes in quite snugly, but it's not too snug. You don't have to fight it too much. And with the tape, it all goes down quite easily and somewhat quickly. I just give it a little tap with a tapping block, and that's all there is to it. So the other day, someone left a comment on one of our very old videos that kind of piqued my interest and made me actually go back and watch that original video. And it was when we were back digging and underpinning, in this specific video, we're underpinning the stairs. And one, just to see how naive we were in taking on this project, and also just to see how far we've come. To see that back then we were digging 2 feet down below solid rock and dirt and clay and just to build up a crawl space, and now here I am today laying down the finished final floor in a somewhat frantic rush as we're getting ready to move in. And hopefully this video's been okay. I've not really been focusing on the filming as much. I just really just need to focus on the flooring and it's time to move in. Unfortunately, I've just run out of glue, so this is how far I've been able to get. That means I've burned through a little bit over 1 gallon so far on this house. I've got another gallon back at the apartment. I need to go get that, but it's late. I'm gonna call it a day and pick up tomorrow morning, hopefully for the very last day. Well, I've been working all day, pushing really hard with the hopes that I would finish, but I knew there was a chance that I'd be a couple of hours short, and well, that's what's happened. It's now 7:30 p.m. and I'm tired. I need to be done and making all of these really simple, stupid mistakes, but I just have 2 hours to go to finish, but unfortunately that'll have to wait for another time. But allow me to show you how things look right now. I just love these floors. The contrast between the stone and this pattern and that color, and just wait until I'm able to vacuum this up and mop it properly. It'll really shine, because right now there's a layer of dust over everything. But look at this hallway. Look how long it looks now compared to what it was before. I love this pattern. I love that I chose to have the pattern running right through the doors. It really draws your eyes to these doors that we worked so hard on. And then coming into the bedroom, and I think if I get to this window here and spin it around, you'll really be able to see and appreciate the color, textures, and that pattern. But man, look at that. What a transformation. I do have to stop though, because we're starting bright and early tomorrow morning on another massive project, but at least this time I have professional help. I was a little nervous to tackle this job. I wasn't quite sure it was DIY, and I was constantly referencing YouTube videos to make sure I was doing things right, but at the end of it, I feel pretty confident. I'm pretty proud of a new skill in my tool belt. I'll finish up the couple of hours of work that's left for next week, but for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.